The last thing I expected on the first morning of my vacation was to be accused of eco-terrorism by a woman wielding a clipboard in one hand and a yapping terrier in the other. She marched up my gravel driveway in blinding neon green flip-flops, eyes blazing as if I'd torched the entire forest. My supposed offense? A hummingbird feeder, still sealed in its box. She thrust a trembling finger toward the pine tree beside my cabin and shrieked, "You're attracting invasive species." At first I thought it was some kind of joke, but then three police cruisers came tearing up the hill, surrounding my truck like I was trafficking illegal goods. That's when I grabbed the deed, not just for the cabin, but for the entire mountain ridge, including the land her sprawling vacation house was illegally built on. Just a few days before, I'd finally broken away from the constant buzz of city life. Emails, honking cars, endless deadlines. To get to this cabin, a gift from my late uncle, tucked away deep in the Blue Ridge Mountains. The drive up was a twisting path of gravel, nearly swallowed by weeds trying to reclaim it. That first evening, I'd sat on the porch with a cup of coffee, watching stars puncture the sky. The silence was so pure it practically vibrated, soothing my fried nerves. But the next morning, while unpacking the feeder, I heard footsteps crunching up the trail. I hoped for a warm, neighborly hello. Instead, a woman in a blinding lime green tracksuit came storming into view, exuding a sense of authority she didn't actually have. No greeting, no smile, just a clipboard lifted like a search warrant. "You're in violation of Community Code Section 3C, she snapped. I just blinked, stunned, and asked what she was talking about. She launched into a rapid-fire recitation of Silver Pines' HOA Environmental Protection Guidelines, as if I'd signed off on their bylaws. I explained the land had belonged to my uncle for decades, and I was only here to disconnect and find some peace. She scoffed, clinging to her tiny dog. "That feeder attracts hummingbirds. Hummingbirds bring predators. Predators endanger our pets." Then cooing at her terrier, she added, "Don't worry, Biscuit. You're safe." A laugh slipped out of me. I couldn't help it. Her face hardened. She immediately pulled out her phone and started dialing, her voice rising. "I'm reporting an environmental hazard in an unregistered structure. He's hostile." She somehow knew my name and exact address. Biscuit barked like a furry little backup officer. I figured the cops would see the... I thought the absurdity would end there. But when three cruisers boxed in my cabin, it hit me. This woman had influence. The lead officer, all stone and no expression, asked for ID and proof of ownership. I kept calm, walked to my truck, unlocked the storage box, and handed over the deed. He scanned it once, then again, his brows steadily climbing. "Sir, this says you own 250 acres, the entire ridge." I nodded. Behind him stood the woman, Diane, as I later learned. Arms folded tight, dog tucked beneath one elbow, her face drained of color. The officer mentioned that some homes sat along the edges of my property. I replied, "I plan to survey the boundaries soon." Diane took a step back, voice shaky, claiming the deed was a forgery. Before she could spiral further, a second officer interjected. "Ma'am, this was filed 2 decades ago. County records confirm it." Her mouth opened, but nothing came out. Biscuit shook in her grasp. The officers left, but peace didn't return with them. I sat on the porch, playing her whole performance back in my head. This wasn't about hummingbirds or predators. It was about power. She saw a man in worn jeans and assumed I was someone she could bulldoze. That night I hiked the property. Fence posts had been shifted, survey markers removed. Then I found it, a sign staked firmly on my land. Silver Pines, HOA property, no trespassing. Diane wasn't just aggressive. She was calculating. The next morning, I drove into town. I bought trail cameras, private property signs, and a drone. If she wanted a battle, I'd document every inch of it. While setting up the gear, a movement caught my eye, a shadow at the window. Diane stood at the driveway's edge, taping something to a pine tree. It was a flyer. "Unauthorized structure under investigation. Fines pending." Her name and a fake official seal sat at the bottom. The war for the ridge had officially started. For 2 days, Diane disappeared. No flyers, no barking dog, No clipboard waving through the trees. But the quiet felt like something compressed, waiting to snap. On the third morning, I spotted her. From my porch, I saw her on her deck, cord in hand, surrounded by 8 neighbors. She moved like a field general, gesturing dramatically. Through binoculars, I watched as she pointed at my cat. Diane was rewriting the story, and I was the villain. Later, another flyer appeared, nailed to a tree. Violation, improper waste management. She claimed I was dumping toxic materials. My compost bin and some fallen leaves were the only hazards in sight. More flyers followed, scattered along the trail, each one escalating: illegal solar panels, unauthorized building. She wasn't just leaving flyers, she was laying the foundation for a narrative. Not for me, but for her audience. My trail cameras told the real story. Diane creeping around at midnight, taping notices, scanning for surveillance. She missed the one cam tucked high in the pines, catching every step. I sat down and drafted a cease and desist letter, referencing my deed and making it clear legal action was on the table. When I delivered it to her doorstep, she opened the door in a bathrobe, oversized sunglasses shielding her face. Her voice cracked as she screamed that I was threatening her. I walked away. "Your feeder's still non-compliant," she shrieked behind me. Hours later, the cruiser rolled up again. Same officer. I showed him the footage. Diane on my land, after dark, taping flyers, trespassing. He chuckled, muttered harassment, and took the USB drive. He warned me her actions could cross into criminal territory and suggested I post official no trespassing signs. As he left, I watched him stop at Diane's house. Then the yelling began. Shouts echoed down from her driveway. I crept closer, just enough to see Diane, red-faced, arguing with the officer. Neighbors stood nearby, murmuring. One man pointed toward my cabin, shaking his head. Her grip on the narrative was slipping. By sunrise, a crude sign was zip-tied to my gate. Community Watch Zone. Violators photographed. Report suspicious mountain man. The lettering was wild, scrawled in red marker. It reeked of desperation. I took it down and set a trap. Trail cams repositioned. Motion alerts activated. Pink survey flags planted around a decoy toolbox. That night, my phone buzzed. There she was, caught again. Diane in a camouflage hoodie, ripping flags, chucking them into the underbrush, snapping pictures. She was messing with property lines now. I drove to the county office the next day and uncovered the smoking gun. 30 feet of her deck, including an outdoor kitchen, extended over onto my land. Either her surveyor messed up, or Diane had faked it. I marked the zone with orange ribbon and a sign. Pending survey review. Property dispute active. She stormed down the slope like a thundercloud, accusing me of vandalism. I calmly pointed to the records, reminded her of the trespassing footage, especially her little midnight mission. She threatened to involve the county. I encouraged it. A different officer arrived, reviewed my evidence, and confirmed it. Her deck crossed onto my property. Her name was familiar to him. The next morning, a drone buzzed overhead. Its camera tracked me for a full loop before retreating, back to Diane's deck. Then came the county code officer, responding to an anonymous complaint about illegal construction. He looked around, found nothing out of order, and sighed, clearly familiar with the routine. Now I get emails daily. Diane had become a serial complainer. Her accusations were wild, baseless. I planned a small lookout tower, 12 feet tall, fully legal, fully mine. The county signed off quickly. As the frame took shape, Diane stood on her lawn, glaring and snapping photos. The tower didn't just rise, it declared, "I see everything." Then came a petition. Left in my mailbox, it demanded the removal of my tower, accusing me of using it for commercial development and storing explosives. Diane had crowned herself Community Defense Coordinator. I called Ed, a retired surveyor and longtime neighbor. He hadn't signed the petition, thought it was about trail maintenance. When I showed him the issue, he dug out some old maps from his files. Clear proof Diane's deck sat squarely on my land. At the next HOA meeting, chaos broke loose. People shouted. Some stormed out. One woman wept. Then came a new complaint. My lookout tower, she claimed, was disturbing endangered birds. A wildlife officer arrived, looked around and found nothing. No nests, no birds, just an eye roll when Diane tried to argue. The county hearing was intense. My lawyer, Nathan, cool and precise, laid it all out. Maps, aerials, timestamps, trail cam footage. It was methodical, lethal. Diane stood with oversized poster boards. One had flames drawn around my cabin. Another labeled my tower a spy hub. She waved a fake HOA charter and muttered about conspiracies. No one was buying it. The board dismissed her claims. Snickers spread across the room. The ruling was clear.